All right, what's up? What's up? We're back with the Lattimore Performance Podcast. It's been a minute. I don't think we've been on here since September, but we're back. We have a really awesome guest. I went to school with her at Penn State. She swam. We rocked Sabdan. I think I'm going to post the
Nice.
picture later of you, me, and Ange chilling on our seat after the Thon Awards, whatever that was. And then you went on to Florida to get your DPT. We'll get into a little bit of that journey here in a little bit. And then you have your OCS and a few other certifications, right?
Yep. I have my OCS. I have my CSCS. In Florida here, we can be dry needling certified. So I
So
have my
jealous.
certification dry needling and some other stuff too.
So jealous of that. We're not allowed to do that in New York.
No.
It's like my
New York,
biggest
I think
gripe.
in California.
Surprising.
But
why don't you give us a little rundown of kind of where you're at right now, and then we'll dive into some more stuff I know we want to get onto.
Yeah, sounds good. So I graduated from University of Florida Physical Therapy School in 2021, and then I went right into doing a orthopedic residency at Holy Cross. It's about 15 minutes away from where I live, and I stayed there for a little bit longer after my residency as I started to kind of build up my own private clientele, doing more of that like cash-based model. And then I officially stopped at Holy Cross a little over a year ago. So I've been completely full-time on my own doing more of the performance cash-based physical therapy. I do a lot of strength conditioning and personal training too, injury prevention. I've been pretty much on my own now for a year. I work out of a strength and conditioning gym called Next Level in downtown Fort Lauderdale. And I've been working with some other partnerships and some other gyms up north here where I actually live in Pompano Beach, and just kind of chugging along, spreading the word and educating.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into some of the performance stuff later because that's a big thing we're trying to start to get into up here too, which is I've been tasked with. So we'll get into that. But give us a little. I know you had a different journey from your Penn State into your DPT. So tell us a little bit about that. I think you spent some time in South Africa, right?
Yeah. So I took a gap year after I graduated from Penn State. I actually did not get into PT school. I got waitlisted at a bunch of schools. I remember being like absolutely like devastated. There was no thought in my mind that I wasn't going to get into a PT school, but I did not get in. So I made the best of it during my gap year. I started lifeguarding at the beach in Fort Lauderdale, still lifeguard there part-time actually. And then I nannied for a family. I worked at my old high school as a substitute teacher, a swim lessons coach, and I traveled a lot. So I did a 3-month volunteer internship program in South Africa where I worked at a school for kids with special needs disabilities, and I basically was the PT there. I wasn't even in PT school yet. There was a PT that came once or twice a week. She kind of handed me these files, and it was all in Afrikaans, and I was like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But I had a lot of experience working with kids growing up with my mom. My mom was an audiologist, and she worked with a lot of kids with autism, ADD, ADHD, learning difficulties. She actually wrote a book called No Child Left Unwrapped. So I had a lot of experience working with kids growing up. So it wasn't too hard. But yeah, so I went to South Africa for 3 months. And then I also did I got into the sport of surf lifesaving, which is kind of like lifeguard racing. So open water paddleboard racing, swimming, kayak, rowboat, surf ski, you name it. And I got to compete with the USA team. I went to New Zealand and Japan that year too. And since then, I've actually gone back to South Africa, Australia, got to go to Italy.
Jeez.
Yeah. So it was kind of my step away from college swimming. And I was like, what am I going to do now? Because I was so used to being competitive my whole life. And I needed, a little avenue. I think every college athlete kind of falls into that, right? Like,
for
you
sure.
play this sport your whole life, and then you're done with college. And if you don't go pro, like, what do you do? And the sport of surf lifesaving has been perfect because I'm not training 20 plus hours a week like I was in college. Like I train a couple months here and there, and it's been a good avenue. And then as well as like CrossFit. I know you're gotten into CrossFit a lot too and doing some Ironman stuff. I actually signed up for a High Rock, so I'm doing a High Rock.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've heard those are kind of wild. That's like the new thing. I think I'm 6 years from Penn State now?
Yeah, I'm 7.
7?
Was 1?
6.
Yeah,
Yeah,
7.
so 6. And I don't think I figured it out. I don't think I have anything that really like takes my competitive advantage. I'd love it to be golf, but I'm too bad at golf.
Golf
Like,
is a huge mental game.
yeah, which is bad when you're just trying to be competitive.
How about mini golf? Does mini golf count?
Yeah, I think I beat Haley once at mini golf. I
Yeah.
don't think she was too happy with me though. It's not like
my
she's
fiance,
competitive either.
yeah, my fiance Jay, he's tall. He's 6'8". I forget how tall you are.
6'8", yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he and I play mini golf, and I think our records are like 50-50 right now. It usually goes back and forth. There's never a clear winner.
I would go play mini golf today, but unlike down in Florida, it's I think 37 and raining.
Oh, yeah, you don't even want to know how nice it is here today.
Don't worry, my sister sends daily updates of pool party. I think she went to a foam party last year, so I'm used to it. But yeah, tell me a little bit more about the sport or the life saving, because I've seen you go all over the place with it. It kind of seems like a sick.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and I found such a good group of friends through it too, not just like in the US, but internationally as well. So essentially our season is usually in the summer. Like, I want to say the first competition usually happens around May, and then we usually have our national championships in beginning of August. And then they usually take an international team. Every other year is Worlds, and then in between they do a competition called ISRC. And yeah, so I've got to travel with Team USA basically since I've graduated from college. I didn't go on the trip last year, just some family stuff going on, and I just didn't do well and didn't make the team. But hopefully next year I'll make it again and try and go for one more, because next year's trip is in New Zealand, and that's actually where I took my first international trip. So it'd be pretty cool to try and finish it off where I started it.
It'd be awesome. And then so I saw in your bio too, you did some like medical PT stuff for that
Yeah,
same team, or is
yeah.
that different?
So we like since I'm there, like I get it, right? Like if someone has an injury, or I'll just kind of take a look,
Yeah.
you know. There was when we were in Italy 2 years ago, one of my teammates actually tore her ACL running into the ocean.
Jeez.
And this is when I was finishing up. No, I had just finished PT school. I was in my residency. And I remember, and we were literally on like the knee section. And I was like,
Don't worry, I
thank you
got
for your
this.
ACL, Kelsey. And so I was like there for that. And then actually the year after, it was in Texas, I ended up tearing my Liz Frank ligament in my foot and had to have foot surgery the next week. So I was my
I
own
remember
PT
seeing that.
there. But yeah, no, on the trips, we don't really have like a medical necessarily liaison unless it's a US competition.
Yeah.
So I would just kind of be there and help out and answer any questions that anyone had, or give any tips or tape. Someone's like, I like this taping technique for my knee. I'll be like, okay, did you bring your tape? And I'll
Yeah.
do it for you, type of thing.
So then before we get back into the performance therapy and PT side of it, tell us about the patient side. How'd that go? Were you your own PT the whole time?
I was,
That's extremely impressive.
for the most part. I did have a little bit of help along the way from a couple PTs that just did some of the manual stuff that like I couldn't really do on my own. But I'd actually had knee surgery right before I started my freshman year at Penn State. And this time going through a surgery and having gone through PT school, knowing Liz Frank injuries, and I was so much better about knowing when to push through certain types of pain, not to push through certain types of pain, actually do really well with like nutrition and control the factors that I can control, such as sleep, recovery, eating enough protein, drinking my tart cherry juice every night, like things like that. Where when I was in high school and had knee surgery, like I was probably still eating
Full
candy and
send. Yep.
caramel apples and stuff like that.
I don't know if I've stopped eating candy. Maybe one day.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I was
that's
pretty much my own PT in regards to progressing my exercises and being good about knowing, when it's okay to go into like the next level and the next stage of, let's say, jumping and then running and depth jumps and all that.
that's so impressive because I broke my foot. I broke my like the outside fifth met head doing a CrossFit thing. I fell off a rope and like just like slapped my foot on the ground.
Yeah,
I ignored it for 2 days, of course.
of
And I
course.
like had just gotten into like barefoot shoes. So like I was literally in nothing. I'm walking around the clinic with a limp, and my clinical director's like, dude, what is wrong with you? I'm like, you mind taping my foot? Like it's just a little sore. Like I think I just sprained my foot. So Then I go get an X-ray and she's like, yeah, like there's nothing really on there. There might be a little line, but I think it's broken. So then she sent me, I was going to CSM that year in San Diego.
Yeah.
And I have this boot to go all the way out there. She puts me in a boot. And like 3 days deep in the boot, I'm like, oh, it feels better. It must have just been the sprain. Like, we're good. I walk like 25,000 steps a day around San Diego in just regular shoes. Come back, have a follow up. And she's like, yeah, it's definitely broken. We're going to want to keep you in the boot for a couple more days. I'm like,
Great.
okay, yeah, I've been wearing the boot the whole time. No worries.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, I found a surgeon. Like, I've heard of surgeons keeping people in a boot after Liz Frank surgery for like 3 months. And I think I was maybe in the boot for 6 weeks. And he was like, you're a PT. Listen, I know you're going to progress yourself well. I don't have to, we had a very good like patient
Yeah,
doctor relationship. And
that's nice.
yeah, so it was
That's
good.
really nice. But back to the PT side, I guess, since that's
Yeah.
why we're here. What was the experience like getting your OCS, having that residency, and then kind of propelling yourself into the profession from there right after school?
Yeah. Well, so obviously, so I graduated 2021. COVID was 2020. I remember like we had just started our first round of clinicals. Mine was in an orthopedic setting. I loved my CI. Like he was great. I was there for about 3 days and then they shut down. And then next thing you know, a week or two later, everyone's getting
Yep.
kicked out of their clinicals, right? So it was kind of like that waiting point of like, what are we doing? So we ended up taking our summer classes in the second half of the spring. And then we took our third year classes in the summer. So then our third year was all clinicals. And then my clinicals kept getting bounced around and canceled and this and that. And I mean, there was one clinical I remember we still didn't have the caseload because of COVID, right? So
Yeah.
I just felt like I wanted more of that mentorship. I felt, when I did my clinicals, I had a couple of CIs that were like residency trained. I even had one that was fellowship trained, and I saw the difference. And I wanted that mentorship for another year. And also with Holy Cross being super close to my house, I was able to live at home with my
Yeah,
mom, didn't have to pay for rent. And I was like, perfect, I can take the reduced salary now. And I loved the people that I worked with there. I learned so much during that year and a half, almost, by the time I finally kind of left, which I'm actually still technically employed as on call per diem. So every once in a while they'll be like, hey, we have someone out. Can you come in? So I'm still on payroll there essentially. But yeah, it was great. We had a lot of hands-on, a lot of lab, I got to develop my manual skills a lot more. And
it is so
it kept
nice.
me like learning and kept the sponge, right? They say that you're a sponge the first 5 years out of school. And
Yeah.
I wanted to be surrounded by a lot of really good clinicians and in an environment where I wasn't pressured to see more than one patient at a time. And I got to continue to grow and learn.
Yeah, I did very similar path of like middle of school, COVID, and you're like, we are in a hands-on profession, but you're sitting there behind a screen for 2 years trying to
Yeah.
learn. And it was so hard. Well, like at the end of the day, PT school is a lot about you pass the test.
Yeah.
Like if you pass the test, a lot of it is hands-on learning. So like I had two really good clinicals. I went down to Exos in Pensacola for combine training, which was good.
Yeah. That's
And then the
awesome.
one after that, I was in Nashville with a guy that was like big into manual therapy, which I also got exposed to dry needling there. I
Yeah.
was like, man, I want to do this, but
Yeah.
not New York. But I've heard the test. So I've heard the test for like the certifications is double what the NPTE was. What was your experience with that?
I think my residency, I was very lucky, prepared me very well to take it. I did obviously like a lot of outside studying. I found I'm blanking on the name of it right now. I think it was like the orthopedic certified specialist. Like it was a podcast and they did a bunch of videos and I was like constantly listening to podcasts on my drives to work and taking practice questions anytime I had like a cancellation. And then what was nice was that I was learning all of this, but I was still working. So I was applying things that I learned and then it stuck in my brain better rather than just sitting in the classroom. You learn it, you're not physically doing it. It's hard for it to be absorbed into your brain. This was just like a totally different type of learning experience that as you're learning, you're actually doing what you learn. So then you better memorize it. So like with OCS, at least at Holy Cross, we did a section for the shoulder. So for those 8 weeks, or let's say for the shoulder, anytime an eval came into the clinic for shoulder, it was given to either myself or the other resident. So that way we had a lot of shoulder patients on
It's really
our
nice.
schedules. So we were consistently like learning as we were also learning in the classroom.
That's really
So
nice.
it helped a lot.
That's got to help your confidence too, because I think that was the biggest thing coming out of school. I mean, you still see it with new grads that we work with, of like confidence of, you know what you're doing, you just got to do it. You like,
Yeah.
the only way to get better at it is to do it.
Yeah.
But I know I struggle with that out of school, of like, what am I doing? How is
Yeah.
this person getting better? But it's
Exactly.
working. So
It's true. It's true. And honestly, something I've learned along the way is just educating the patient, or just like talking to the patient and listening to them, letting them be heard, is almost just as therapeutic as one or two exercises that you can give someone,
so
right?
true.
Because as a profession, we tend to spend the most amount of time in healthcare with a patient. When you go
Yeah.
see the doctor, you maybe see the doctor every couple months, and you see them for what, 20 minutes ish or so. I
Yeah.
mean, we're sometimes seeing people 3 times a week for like an hour. That's 3 hours a week, 8 week. Like, we're spending so much time with people, listening to their stories and getting to know them. Sometimes just that is therapeutic in itself.
And that's exactly why I was always between PT, PA, and like an orthopedic surgeon. That's exactly my rationale of why I chose PT. I'm like, orthopedic surgeon, half the time you do that, your patient's asleep anyways. Like, I like to talk way too much.
Yeah, that. And then I don't know, I like to try and treat things when I can without medicine, right? Like, I like being able to empower someone to kind of take control and teach them the tools and put tools in their toolbox so they can help themselves.
I love when they have the light bulb moment. You can
That's the
just see it
best.
on their face where they're like,
Yep.
that makes
Oh,
sense. I
so
can do that.
I can
Okay.
squat. The best is when I have a patient come in and they're like, "Oh, the doctor told me I can't squat." I'm like, "Well, how do you go to the bathroom?" "I sit on the toilet." And then I said, "Do you stand up from the toilet?" And they go, "Yeah." And I go, "I think that's a
You just
squat."
squatted.
They're like, "Oh my gosh, should I not be doing that?" And I'm like, "No, no, that's not it. I'm just trying to tell you that you can squat. Like, it is safe to squat. It's okay to squat." A lot of times people think, they're not supposed to bend over or whatever, just
Yes,
teaching them and
there's
educating them.
exactly, especially like low back pain. You see it all the time. It's like, these people come like stiff as a board, like, I can't move. It's gonna
Yeah,
hurt my back.
it's gonna hurt.
No, it's okay. We just gotta grade it. Just gotta
Yep,
grade
great
it.
exposure.
But yeah, I think that's a huge, huge piece of our profession, is just talking to people.
Just
I
talking.
think that I think it gets glossed over in PT school. I mean, in PT school's defense, like, they have a lot to cover to get you to pass your exam.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but there's definitely a lot of things that get glossed over that I've learned on the job afterward. That's like, yeah, this is so much different than what I learned in my orthopedic clinical or our stupid lab that's down in a basement.
yep,
Being able to navigate all the things you learn and like
yeah,
explain it to a patient, talk to the patient, get them to understand it and buy in is, I mean, if you can't do that, I think I've always said it. My mom has said it. My mom and dad are both PTs too. So they've always said it is like, sometimes the smartest kids in your PT school are like the worst PTs, because they just, I mean, you basically have to be able to talk to a brick wall,
yeah,
which
yeah.
I can't say Haley's ever caught me, talking to the wall or anything, but
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I know kids in my program. I think I graduated with like 78. Um, that was 3 years ago. I mean, within like the first year, I think there was like a handful, 5, 6 people that had already left the profession and doing like medical sales or something like that.
yeah.
And they were some of the smartest kids in our class, and they just wasn't for them.
Yeah, I think we have 5 or 6 in my class that have already left too. They're in
Yeah.
medical sales, or
Yep.
I think one person's just working as a medical aid, which I was a little confused about. But
Yeah.
to each their own.
Oh, it's crazy how much burnout is in our profession, but that's kind of why I trying to take the path that I'm taking now, so I
Yeah,
can avoid that.
exactly. So with that, it's a great lead in. So how do you go from, you finish your residency, you start to work at Next Level, right?
Yep.
The gym, and then now you've just opened the movement lab, correct?
Yes. So my business was called Coast PT initially when I started it. And Coast actually stood for Casey's Orthopedic and Sport Therapy. Just happened to, yeah.
Nice.
And then also being on the coast. But I never knew I wanted to grow past myself. I thought I was just going to kind of do the concierge PT cash based stuff. And then I joined the PT Biz Mastermind group with Danny Matei. And like, I've been a member of it for a little over a year now. And it has completely changed how I view my business and how I want to grow my business. And so for a while, I'd been kind of playing around with the name of what I wanted to change to, because I want it to be a little bit more like encompassing, and when you see the name you kind of get an idea of what it is that I have to offer and what you'll be kind of walking in the door expecting to do and see. So I came up with the movement lab, and I abbreviated MVMT because that's our, little abbreviation for movement in the medical field. And I started rebranding it about like 2 months ago, and it's been going good. It's also, my mom had a business called the Listening Lab, and so I kind of wanted to model the name
I
after,
like that.
her business.
I like that. That's nice.
Yep.
So when you got out of your OCS, you passed that test. Is it right away you decided to start your own side, or is next level just the place you worked through, or is that you were hired there originally and then you've kind of gone off on your own?
So when I finished my residency, it was December 2 years ago, I guess. And I stuck around at Holy Cross. They just didn't have a full time position open. So I was per diem, but I was working 40 hours a week per diem. So I had done that for basically December, January, February, March, April. And I think it was around May time, Next Level literally had put an ad out on, like, I don't know, LinkedIn, whatever it was, saying that they were looking for a physical therapist to come in. If you have any more questions, email this email. I was like, of course I have questions. What do you. So I emailed the owner, Chris, a couple of questions, and he was like, these are all great questions. Why don't you come in this weekend and we can talk about it? And this was like on a Wednesday. And I was like, okay, like, here's my resume, by the way. So I met with him at the gym on Saturday. We talked. And then like within a week, he was like, yeah, so, I mean, the job's yours if you want it. So essentially, it's a strength and conditioning gym, private, semi-private. Everyone that comes in gets an assessment done, a movement screen with the FMS, and then they're given a program that's written for them, and it changes every 4 weeks, and it's based on what their goals are, where they're at with their fitness journey or anything. Like we have anywhere from like elite hockey player athletes coming in to 82-year-old that want to just work out for longevity. So there was a PT there before me, but he moved up to Jacksonville. So there was kind of like a clientele there already in the PT side of it, but he had been gone for months. So I kind of had to slowly build it back up. But there is a
Yeah.
private treatment room in the gym. And essentially I'm paid as a contractor there. So the owner would take a managerial fee, and I would see people. I would bring in my own people, and then there were also referrals from the gym, outside the gym, just the random Google clients that will come in.
So you were by yourself.
So what was that?
You were by yourself, like that. You
Yeah,
were a one man show.
yeah,
That's sweet.
yeah. So I still work out of Next Level, but then as I've been there, I definitely want to grow because I'm 29. I'll be 30 soon, getting married in a year and a half, eventually family, kids. And I want to be able to have a business that's still making money, even if I'm not working. Let's say when I
Yeah.
start to have kids.
Yep.
So yeah, so eventually I would like to try and grow. I want to stay at Next Level. I want to continue to provide and serve like clients at Next Level and everything, but I do want to expand past that. So there's some other gyms that I've been working with, have a meeting with another guy today later, actually.
Nice.
And yeah.
Do you always want to work out of a gym, or do you have the vision of one day your own like movement lab branded?
Definitely. I
Yeah.
definitely would love my own standalone space. Like that would be the ultimate goal. And I want it to incorporate obviously physical therapy. I would love to have like a massage therapist on staff. I would love to have a pelvic floor physical therapist on staff.
Yep.
I would love to have, just some personal trainers, conditioning specialists, whatever it may be. And then, yeah, a nutritionist, obviously. maybe like a nurse or a nurse practitioner that we could refer out to as well when it comes to doing like labs. Like I want like a full holistic approach.
Yeah, I love that. Which is another great lead. You're very good at leading me into these next things. Is well, a few of your nutrition, or excuse me, a few of your certifications. There's a few. I just thought of this one too. Is you do the diagnostic ultrasound now too, right?
Yeah. So
Tell
that
us a little
is,
bit about that. Yeah.
man. So I just took the course in July and I am still learning. We'll go with that. Like it is like a different, it's almost like a different language. And so I have my own Clarius diagnostic ultrasound machine and I'll use it every now and then. And I just have to learn. That's all.
What do you how do you sell that to people? Like, do you? Because I'm assuming you don't need like a referral from a doctor for someone to come see you.
No, so in Florida, you don't need a referral for 30 days.
Yeah.
And that's also like when you go through insurance. I mean, technically, if I'm seeing someone for more than 30 days for the same thing, I'll try and have them get a referral from their doctor. But a lot of times by the 30 days, I may just be transitioning them to more of like strength and conditioning where I'm not necessarily doing any manual therapy.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, so with the diagnostic ultrasound, I wouldn't say I've necessarily like marketed it yet. I like people at the gym know I do it. I've done it. I think I want more practice before I, market it that I do it a lot. I do want to take a diagnostic ultrasound or a ultrasound guided dry needling course as well. I wouldn't mind taking another diagnostic ultrasound course just to learn more as well. And yeah, but it's definitely the way I feel like physical therapy is going to make it more of like that one-stop shop. And then if I see something, I'll screenshot it, save it to the portfolio, and I can send it to the doctor and be like, hey, this looks like a possible, meniscus tear, whatever it may be. But, maybe just to help build that rapport with the doctors too, and just show that we can help out and we can actually be a little bit more of like that first line defense. Like I want people to know they should come see a PT first. They don't always have to go see an orthopedic first.
Yeah. What do you use that like what do you use it most now? Like when you're treating someone, you're like, oh, wait, I have this, I have access to this. I'm gonna use it. Like what is that kind of thought process of, hey, I'm gonna bring this in with this person?
So I think some of it too is the personality of the person, right?
Yeah.
Like, are they going to appreciate it? Or maybe appreciate isn't the right word,
I know what you're
but
trying to
are
say.
they
Like,
going,
yeah.
yeah, like, are they going to, is it going to freak them out? Or is it going to help? Or is it going to give or is it going to give them more like, I know kind of more like what I'm talking about, and I'm not just here to give you 3 exercises and then you're
Yeah.
on your merry way. So I would say I base like on the person that's coming in, and then also the body part, and whether or not after the subjective objective I feel like, mechanism of injury wise it would be beneficial to take a look with the ultrasound. Like it's not, I feel like the body parts that I do the most is the knee and the shoulder. It's just not, and the calf and the Achilles. But other than that, I feel like I don't tend to use it very much.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I was gonna say it can definitely be useful for certain people to could also see that person that's like, oh yeah, you have a meniscus tear. Okay, it's not gonna get better. I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah.
It's like I have that conversation so much of like, yes, I know your image says this, but if you imaged 300 people out on the street, they probably had 50 of them would probably have the same thing and they have no issue. So like, yes, you have this, but it doesn't mean that we can't overcome it.
Or like, is that actually what's causing your pain? Right?
Exactly.
A lot of people have meniscus tears, don't even know it, have bulging discs, don't even know it. They could have had that there for a while, but now they're having pain. They get the image, and then the image says that, and they're like, oh no, I can't bend over. Oh no, I can't squat past 90. But a lot, like, I've seen it where someone comes in with patellofemoral pain, condylar patella, whatever, runners, whatever we want to call it. And that's definitely, I know what's causing their pain. And they get an image and it shows it on the MRI, but it also shows a meniscus tear. So then they get surgery for the meniscus tear, and then they still have the same pain after. I'm like, interesting.
Yeah, that is definitely a conversation I find myself having a lot. Loved it. We love and hate, especially I'm in more of the insurance realm right now, but like insurance loves and hates to throw images at people all at the same time. They love to get you an image, but at the same time, they're like, oh, go to 6 weeks of PT before you get an image, and then we'll give you your MRI. So then you're like already starting off behind the ball because you're like trying to convince this person, hey, we can do something for your pain. You don't have to just do this as a prerequisite.
Right. Well, so let's say you hurt your knee. You think, okay, I got to go see the doctor now. Maybe it takes 6 to 8 weeks to go see a doctor. Then they give you a script for PT because you can't get an image until you go to PT for 6 weeks. But PT is booked. So you can't get an eval for 3 weeks. Then you finally get your eval, but PT is booked. So now that you've had your eval, you still have to wait another 2 weeks before you can get in. So that's 5, 7, 6. Let's say we're at 11 weeks right now. Then you try 6 weeks of PT, and then in your head, you're like, I'm only doing this because I need to get an image, and maybe you don't follow up with the exercises at home, whatever it may be. And before you know it, you've been in pain for like 6 months, and it just, people go down this like rabbit hole, and then, yeah.
Which is another great transition to what we were going to talk about of seeing the physical therapist first. And like, you don't need to do, I don't remember how we phrased it, but
you don't need to be injured to see a
yes,
physical therapist.
thank you. That's what we're going to talk
there
about.
was a recent New York Times article. Someone in the business group that I'm in pointed out. I think they did like a little, blog post on it as well. But basically, this New York Times article came out, and it just talks about how you don't need to be injured to see a physical therapist. I mean, you should go to, let's say, your primary care once a year, and you get your annual physical, you get your lab work, this, that, the other. I mean, the standard should be the same for physical therapy, right? Like, you should get an annual movement physical, see where you're moving at for your age, what your fitness level is, get some education on proper exercise dosage for you and your age. And I mean, think about women going through, hormonal, like osteopenia, osteoporosis. There's so much out there that unfortunately doctors may not necessarily always have enough time to talk about with patients when they come in. And I think it should be normalized to see a physical therapist at least minimum once a year to get that movement physical, essentially.
Yeah. Preventative, like, I don't think anyone right now really sees physical therapy as a preventative mode of what we do.
No.
It's all rehabilitation, which is
Right.
great. We are good at that, but we also know enough that we can help. I don't want to say prevent. I don't like to use the word prevent because there's a lot of times where you just can't prevent injury. Like, it happens. Pain is too unpredictable to say, hey, we're going to make this 100%. You're going to feel great. But like, being able to mitigate injuries, keep you stronger, guide you in, giving yourself the best chance to not be in pain. Like, I think we can do that, but like you said, it's not the standard.
No, it's not. And it's, unfortunately, some of it is driven by insurance, right? Insurance wants to only step in when you're sick or hurt or injured.
Maybe.
There's just not coverage for really preventative stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of things can be prevented. Like, I'm with you on that. Like, I don't like to use that word necessarily, but there are some comorbidities that can be,
managed at least.
Yep. With just daily exercise, some nutrition. Like, I think that's another thing. I think everyone should get like your annual nutritional, like, physical, right? Kind of take a look into what you're eating on a daily basis, how much water you're drinking. And I think there's just a lot of things that can be addressed from a whole body, holistic approach that unfortunately the healthcare system is just not able to sustain for everyone.
It's overwhelmed, and it's too, right? Like, if you make it more normal to see, let's say, a physical therapist or a nutritionist, something like that on the regular, it's not like, well, there's something wrong with me that I have to go do this. It's just, I'm doing a check-in. So instead of you being like, oh, well, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to sit on the couch for 9 months and then my back hurts. Well, what if we had just said, hey, walk 15 minutes a day 9 months ago? Maybe your back would have never hurt.
Yeah.
Again,
Very
who knows?
possible.
But which again leads us kind of right into, we touched on the nutrition, but you also got a nutrition certification in.
Yeah, it was like I did it online, a nutritional certification, certified nutritional physical therapist. I definitely like tapping into that and I talk to a lot of, I try and use the word clients rather than patients. So I try and talk to a lot of clients about that, especially like post-surgery or someone that has maybe chronic pain. Like we kind of dive down into their daily food, water intake, see if maybe they're eating a lot of high inflammatory foods that are causing this high inflammatory state, leading them into more of this like chronic pain nature. I think there's nothing is ever just a one thing will fix, right? Everything's multifactorial, whether it comes to sleep, nutrition, recovery, a couple exercises, stretch, mobility, whatever it may be. Everything kind of is multifactorial. So I think diving down into the nutrition side of it sometimes when my clients are open to it, right? You also have to kind of pick and choose with that. I can kind of tell off the bat when I'm doing an evaluation whether or not someone's going to be open to talking about that or not. And that might be something that I kind of have to talk about over a couple sessions with someone, right? As I get to know them a little bit better. Some people are like, oh yeah, I'll tell you everything. Or these are the supplements that I'm taking and the vitamins and the minerals. And some people are a lot more open to that.
Yeah, you definitely got to build trust to have some of those
Yes, got
conversations.
to build that rapport.
With that certification and that knowledge base you got from that, is that something you recommend to more PTs, or is there other, like I know precision nutrition is a big one out there that people can get, like in terms of like more PTs getting into some nutrition stuff? What is that something you'd recommend, or is there other things that you've found that have been more helpful?
I like it. I think too, like when someone asks me what gives you the right to talk about this, I'll be like, well, I took this certification course, right? Rather than before when I took it, I was just kind of like, this is my knowledge. This is what I've heard. This is what I've learned through my research, listening to podcasts. Whereas now it kind of gives me a little bit more of a title, and some people want to see that. So in that regards, I would say it's beneficial. I learned some new stuff during the course for sure, especially when you get into like the third section of it. But I would say it's beneficial, even if it's just information for yourself. And then also, depending, I guess you could say more so like the area that you work in, the clientele that you see, will they be open to it and learning about it? Yeah, I would say take those factors into consideration. But I think it is something that I wish we dove down more deep into, like in PT school.
Oh, for
Like you said,
sure.
there's so much that they have to teach us, and
And
we
nutrition's
learn and
just
we touch
not,
upon it a little bit. Yeah.
yeah,
But
it's just
like,
not on the
yeah,
NPTE. So they're like,
yeah,
okay, here's some stuff.
yeah. But I've learned a lot with it. I like it. It was a good course.
Sweet, cool. I'll put it in. I'll put the link in the show. I point down to the
Sweet.
show notes. Yeah, the show notes down here. Tell us more about too. So you did insurance based was at the OCS, the hospital. So now you're all cash based.
Yep.
Tell
All
us
cash
how
based.
that. Yeah, tell us how that has opened doors for you.
Yeah. So I do accept like HSA and FHA cards too. And then I've had people who are out of network, I'll provide like a super bill for them with ICD 10 codes, CPT codes, but then it's kind of up to them to resubmit to their insurance for reimbursement. But it's opened up a lot of doors because I'm able to treat the way I want to treat. And I can see someone for as long as I want to see them, right? Like I'm with people one on one for at least an hour, sometimes more if I have, no one before or after. Like I know I need to spend a little bit more time with this person in order to get done what I want to get done. So I would say it's given me a lot more opportunity that way to just treat how I want to treat. And then in a way, it's also given me a lot of like time and freedom. So the main reason I actually decided last December, because it's been like a full year now of being like full time on my own, was my mom had cancer and I wanted to be there with her a little bit more, living with her, kind of was her primary caretaker, taking her to doctor's appointments, chemo, and everything. And so that really pushed me to actually be out on my own full time to do that so that I could also spend more time with her. And I think it was a little push that I needed, because the first month that I officially left Holy Cross and was completely on my own, it was like the universe saw my schedule was open and just gave me an influx of like new clients. And then a lot of my marketing has been like through word of mouth, which I think is huge, because then if you're helping someone and then they're going to talk to their friends about it, and that's how you're getting people, you're doing a good job.
Exactly. It's and same thing in the insurance space. But yeah, I am. I think it's the freedom, right? It's you just have so much more freedom to like you don't. I mean, you still have to a little bit. Like you have to have your certain number of like clients. You got to keep the doors open.
Hmm.
But like insurance based, man, we up here we're seeing upwards of 70, 80 patient visits a week. I think I did like 40 evals in December. I'm like,
I think I did 40 evals for the year.
yeah, like, so, it's one of those things. And then when you bill it, let's say you bill
Mhm.
it, do you do like, um, hey, an eval is this much, a follow up is this much, or do you do like a monthly subscription?
So for the most part, I do like an eval is this much, and then I have a 6 package, a 10 package, and like a 25 package. I do my best to try and sell at least the 6 because you can't really make a true difference in just one session unless someone's coming to you for like recovery or just like a quick check-in like, hey, am I cleared to play, like this is I see a bunch of firefighters, they'll come in maybe once every couple of months, right? But if someone comes in with like a true injury, I really try at least the 6th session because it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to really know. And honestly, for tendons it takes like what, 3 to 4 months to really see if you're making a difference, so it's hard. I usually do more of the package sale, and then also working out of Next Level, the gym. Like I said, a lot of people come in for the semi-private. So when I do see an eval that's someone at the gym and working out consistently at the gym, I'll write their like PT, prehab, rehabby program in their exercise routine. So it's something that I know that they're doing every day. I don't physically need to be there with them to do it. So those are the type of people I may see once every 3 months. And they're the people that come in for their like movement physicals, right? So they are like, okay, we worked on my shoulder mobility for the last 3 months. I want to come work on my hip mobility, and then I'll do an evaluation, and then they have their focus on that.
And then do you do with the movement lab too? Do you do like online remote
I
rehab?
I do actually. I have a client out in Colorado. She has Ehlers-Danlos, and we in the beginning we were meeting every week, and we were meeting every other week, and now we meet pretty much once a month. And I write her like a program. I use the platform True Coach, and I filmed videos on there, and I give a lot of people their home programs that way too. So I do some remote. I've had another inquiry for someone that lives in New York actually to do a remote kind of like virtual program with them. There was another client that I worked with too. He was at school for hockey, and there wasn't really any strength conditioning. So I would do like remote programming for him, and we would have a call once a week, and we would actually talk about nutrition and sleep and recovery. And then I gave him like a rehabby, prehab, and like strength conditioning program that he would follow while he was at school.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And for people looking to get into like a remote rehab, I mean, whether it's with us or someone out there, like they're looking at remote rehab, they're scared of it. What does an eval look like for you? Like,
Like
obviously we're
virtually.
big hands-on people.
Yeah.
How do
I
you
mean,
like how do you structure that eval talking with that patient? Like if someone's looking to do remote rehab because that's what they want to do because they're on the road or whatever, how does that look so they feel a little bit more comfortable going into that?
yeah. I think looking at like major movements, right? So squat. You have someone squat from the front, the side, the back. It can tell you a lot about how that person moves. If they're weight shifting for one side versus the other, is there decreased hip flexion on one side? Or are they lacking some ankle mobility on one side? So I would say the very first thing I usually have someone do is squat. And then from there, it kind of leads me into, okay, now what do I want to take a look at? Now what do I want to take a look at? I usually have someone do some sort of like lunge variation too. And then I try and do maybe like a plank hold or a push up, something along those lines that gives me a good idea of upper body, core, essentially. Um, I think we're lucky in regards to COVID actually giving us some help in the virtual world, right? Because we were kind of forced to do that a little bit in school. So you just kind of play around. Like I'll be like, okay, I have this here. Can you find something in your house that kind of looks like this? Let me show you the movement that I want. I want you to follow it, and I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like there was one time they had someone else with them, and I was like, okay, can your husband like hold your knee while you do this and then lift,
Yeah.
you make it work. You
Yeah,
just, it kind of,
absolutely.
I wouldn't say I have a detailed outline. I just kind of go with the flow and see where it goes.
Make it creative, right?
Yeah, very creative.
Let's see. I think there's just one more big question of, kind of I guess we've talked about it the whole time, but give us your final statement on just being a holistic physical therapist and how you take everything into account in creating your rehab plans and honestly just movement plans.
Yeah. So, like I said, everything's multifactorial, right? So, I don't really think someone coming in, I've had people come in, okay, I have this shoulder issue. Give me a stretch to do and I'll do it every day and then it's going to get better. It's not, I can't give someone one or two things that's going to make it better, right? And a lot of times it's going to take time. I can't always speed up time. But I think using more of the holistic approach, I think a lot more people are becoming more aware of their body, what they put into their body, sleep. You have the things like the Whoop now, right? And the Aura rings that are really helping drive. Yeah, Whoop. They're having a lot of people, that's driving people to be a little bit more aware of, different strains that they're putting on their body throughout the day and what alcohol can do to your heart rate when you're sleeping and how that affects
Yep.
your recovery and everything. So I think there's a lot more people that are open-minded now to the holistic whole body approach. And then I think that's just I think a lot of people appreciate that when they come to see me. Sometimes a lot of them have worked with other physical therapists before. They've seen other physical therapists. And I get told a lot like, wow, you're a lot different than the physical therapists that I've seen and talked to and worked with before. And oftentimes when I ask why, it's because of I listen, right? I ask them about nutrition. I ask them about sleep. I ask them about their hobbies, maybe their daily stressors. Was there a big event that just recently happened in their life? Like a lot of times that can cause,
The coffee cup
dysregulation
of
in your
pain is
nervous
like,
system and cause a lot of parasympathetic, sympathetic imbalances. And there's just so many things to take into consideration when you're treating someone rather than just the body part that's hurting. And I think treating someone as a whole person and giving them as much like education as I can is just how I want to treat people. That's how I want to be able to help.
I love that. I love using the coffee cup of pain analogy.
Oh
Like if
yeah.
you put too much in your coffee cup, whatever it be, nutrition, sleep, tissue, stress, if you put too much in there, your coffee's going to spill and you get burned by hot coffee. Like, it don't feel good.
Nope.
Um, but yeah, I love that.
Now I wouldn't say I
Last,
always take my own advice. Right? Like you asked me before, was I my own physical therapist after my Liz Frank injury? And like, yeah, I was, and I was really good with that. But there's plenty of times where I probably should take a rest day when I don't, in regards to going to CrossFit or swimming or running or whatever it may be. And then I
yes.
get hurt, and then I'm like, why did I get hurt? And I'm like, well, Casey, you didn't take your own advice.
Yep. It's amazing because, like, you wear the Whoop and then you're like, oh, you got like 12% recovery. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go work out today for sure.
Oh yeah, I feel great. Feel great.
Oh, you slept 3 hours last night? Oh, yeah, let's do a heavy lift session today. That sounds good.
Did you get your whoop at Penn State? Did you get one at
Yeah,
Penn State?
I had one
Yeah.
at Penn State, and that's kind of where
Yeah.
then I took a while off of school, and then I was like, dude, I need to like, I, my last semester at Penn State, because I finished my 5th year, and then my last semester I went full college student. And then when I stopped and got into PT school, I was like, dude, I don't feel good being a PT and giving advice, acting the way I act right now. So like
Yeah.
COVID was actually great for me in that sense. It gave me more time to like figure out some of the nutrition stuff, get in a better plan with that. But like, yeah, the Whoop was also like, yeah, dude, don't
we
drink.
actually like we actually kind of had that talk a little bit in PT school, right? Like if you want to work in a certain setting, you might need to act, we'll say, like a certain way. And like it was an interesting talk in
Yeah,
PT school.
yeah, exactly. Well, I won't take up too much more of your time. So I got 2 questions left.
Yeah.
One, if people wanted to find you on social media or the internet, where can they find you?
So social media, it's Dr.Casey.Francis. That's where I've been posting a lot of my stuff. I hired an admin, my first employee. That was another plus in
Nice.
2024. My friend April, she was out in
Wow.
Australia, and
Whoa.
she's been helping me with a lot of
Wow.
like social media marketing, admin stuff. So
You're
shout
a
out to April.
you're full full world business here.
I'm trying.
Not just a Florida thing.
Not just Florida,
You know,
Australia too.
New York, Australia, way over there. And then
So, but
is
yeah,
that
so
just Instagram, or are you a TikToker too
Instagram,
these days?
and then I have a website. It's the-mvmtlab.com. I
Sweet.
actually got the domain themvmtlab.com, but I don't get to take ownership of it for like 16 more days.
Of course.
So it will either be the-mvmtlab.com or themvmtlab.com.
Beautiful. Search the Movement Lab and Casey's name on Google. That's what I did earlier.
Perfect. Hopefully it comes up.
It did, I promise. Last thing, we like to finish with a finishing question.
Okay.
Totally unrelated to our topic.
I'm nervous.
No, this is a good one. I had to bring the Penn State back in, since that's how we know each other. Favorite Penn State sporting event you've been in or attended? You can do one for each, but yeah.
Penn State versus Ohio State, whiteout, senior year. We beat Ohio State. We stormed the field, 2016. Best feeling ever. My freshman year was also when Penn State beat Michigan in like 4 overtimes. And I actually have a picture of that game framed. My mom gave it to me for Christmas that year, and it actually hangs over my bed.
That's incredible.
So I ranked that one number 2. And then when Penn State beat Ohio State in 2016, definitely number 1.
That was a great night. I remember that still vividly.
Yeah, that was my favorite sporting event that I went to at Penn State for sure.
Yeah, throw us one that you were in.
Swimming. I mean, swimming.
Yeah, I was gonna say. What was your favorite swimming event you were in? I know you spent a couple at the NCAA. Yeah, you went to the NCAA a couple times, right?
Yeah, I went to NCAA's a couple times. Olympic trials, probably. I mean, Olympic trials was totally surreal. I didn't swim very well, but I remember swimming backstroke in the middle of my event, and I was looking up at the stadium and looking up at the lights and the big giant, jumbotron. I'm like, where am I right now? This is so cool. And then I was like, wait, Casey, you're racing. Come on, let's go.
You're like, this is a little bit different than the Penn State Natatorium.
Oh, just a little.
Did they randomly put a freaking pool in the middle of a football stadium when you did that?
It was, so that year it was in Omaha, and it was actually in a basketball arena type of place.
That's just, so I saw this past year's was at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, yeah.
It just blows my mind that they just temporarily build a giant pool for Olympic athletes to do their thing.
And then that's just the racing pool. Then they have 2 other pools for warm up, warm down, and then they have the hot tubs and the cold tubs, and it's crazy.
Just casually building a pool. Okay, sure. Yep, that makes sense.
Yep.
But that is everything I got for you. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us. And I'm gonna have to, when we're down there in February, come find you.
Sounds good.
Come see the spot.
Oh yeah, definitely. Hopefully I'll have 2 locations by then.
Heck yeah.
Well, thanks, Charlie. Great talking to you.
Happy New Year. Good talking to you.
Bye.
See you.